when it comes to the biology first approach, there are going to be a lot of women and men who won't really fuck with it like that. And the reasons why is that when it comes to the biology first approach, it exposes things. What it exposes is the truth behind sexual attraction, sexual chemistry, and the part and the role that it plays in relationships, right? And a lot of people don't like that because they're used to making that trade. Like, we live in a blue pill society. The blue pill society is based off of what? Pimps, tricks, and hoes, right? I remember seeing this video by Ice-T, and he was saying that, when you're at a job, you're the hoe, right? And the corporation is the pimp. And what you do, like, let's say you're an artist. I'm an artist. So let's say as an artist, really what you do is you hoe yourself out, and then, you get pimped long enough to be able to pimp yourself out, then you pimp out others. And that those who pay for it are tricks, right? That's just a mentality of just how, society works. Society is based off of prostitution, right? And I'm gonna give you an example. Like, this is another reason people won't like it. Like, another thing is this: it's like a lot of men have this weird fixation on their daughter's sexuality, where they are so obsessed with making sure that their daughter isn't promiscuous, making sure that their daughter isn't a hoe, because they have their own Madonna whore complex, that they cause their daughter to become a transactional sex type of woman. And this is what I mean. Men are so concerned with their daughters not receiving adequate amount of reciprocation for their sexual involvement and their sexual investment, that men teach their daughters to only have sex with someone who loves them, right? Now, what often happens in these instances, that women are put in a position where they're trading sex for love, and men are in a position where they're trading love for sex. That's often what happens in society. A man is trading his non-sexual access for sexual access, right? So what makes the biology first approach so scary for a lot of people is a lot of men do not have trust and do not have faith and do not have confidence sexually, to where they believe that they can approach a woman sexually without offering non-sexual access to them, without that being a situation where the woman is just going to reject them. And then there's also going to be women out there who have their own Madonna whore complex, where if they have sex with you quickly, it's because they're not serious about you and they don't want a relationship. And a lot of men use relationships as a way of getting consistent sex instead of using sex to get consistent sex. This is what I mean. I'm talking about intrinsic motivation, intrinsic desire, intrinsic reward, and only doing things that you actually want to do when you're dealing with someone. Like, as a man, when you're doing things non-sexually, I don't think that you should take a woman on dates because you want to have sex with her, unless you really see that as a woman who you want to spend non-sexual time with, right? And the reason is this, part of the reason people are going to be against the biology first approach, a lot of people, is because, a man will have this mindset where, he lacks the intrinsic motivation to spend time with a woman outside of sex, unless she's pretty much strong arming him to do it, right? This is why a lot of people will be against the biology first approach. And I understand that, right? I'm not someone who fights that. I'm not someone who's against it, but what I understand is that, especially in the black community, see, black women have more of a natural way of how they operate with men. But black women also, because of black men and how we haven't been able to be in as a whole in our community, we haven't been able to be as financially stable and as financially attractive as a lot of men in other races. And a lot of that is due to our own issues, but a lot of that is also due to societal things, of being disenfranchised, of being sabotaged by the government, being sabotaged by other communities, because of a fear of black male empowerment, right? Because the black male empowerment is going to be what leads to a correction of how things are going within the black community, right? When it comes to family and relationships, right? But my personal belief is that money really isn't even the answer to this issue. I think intrinsic motivation is the answer to the issue. Intrinsic reward. I believe that when it comes to dealing with black women, a lot of the times, when it comes to other races, they're more conditioned, they're more taught in how to more reasonably and more realistically make that trade of their non-sexual, of their sexual time and their sexual access for non-sexual access. There are a lot of women, like, let's say there's a lot of white women or women of other races, of other cultures, who are more accustomed to the blue pill mentality of they're going to try to limit the sexual access they give to men. And then if a man is, a man who shows interest in them, then they'll give it, right? Now, when it comes to black women, it's like this. Black women are more natural than most women, right? And a lot of people won't agree with this, but a lot of black men will understand this, and a lot of black women will understand this as well. When it comes to dealing with black women, which is, that's my demographic, because I'm a black man, I love black women, right? But when it comes to black women, a lot of the times the way that they see you and the way that they treat you is going to be based off of only your sexual attractiveness to them, the sexual chemistry, your sexual power, but also your masculine energy and your masculine frame. You know, what happens is oftentimes, let's say you're dealing with a woman of another race or another culture, she's more accustomed and has been more taught in the natural way of, and not necessarily nature, but the traditional way of being able to sell your cooperation, right? With black women is difficult. You can't really buy cooperation with black women so much. And most men don't have enough money to do that if they wanted to when it comes to the black community. So one way that we can handle these issues is that, you know, there's often this delineation that is created between what a woman's looking for when it comes to a relationship and what a woman's looking for when it comes to a sexual partner. And that by integrating these things, we create a precedent where men will be able to have more influence over the women that they deal with, right? If a man is able to get to a certain place with a woman sexually, as far as the sexual chemistry, his sexual power, and his masculine frame and masculine energy, then that causes a woman to naturally submit to him. That's natural submission. Black women are not going to submit to somebody not naturally. We need to stop trying to have this narrative. We need to stop trying to have this mindset that if a man makes enough money, that a woman's going to submit. That's bot submission. If a woman has to make a conscious decision about trying to submit to you, she's not fucking with you like that. That's not her energy. That's not how she feels about you. That's not how she sees you. Now, that's why I believe that every man, before he gets to a place where I think every man should have his intrinsic motivation to get money and resources for his own needs, for his own lifestyle, for his own desires, for his own purpose and passions. But when it comes to interactions and sociosexual dynamics, I believe that each man, before he even gets to the place where he's focusing on making large quantities of money to provide for his lifestyle, for that of his family, a man should learn how to sexually attract a woman, and a man should learn how to understand masculine frame, and a man should understand game, so that when he makes money, he doesn't spend that time trying to buy cooperation and spend his life as a trick, right? A man, that's not cool. It's not cool. Now, I'll say this: if you're a man who, you know, you already did that and you have more money than you have time, then I can't judge you for being a trick, right? That's your mindset, that's your mentality, but that's your worldview. That's how you see things. But you have to understand, there's a lot of men who have a lot of money, they can never keep a woman. And then the woman that they keep, that woman is just waiting for an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. I've heard people say all the time, if you lose your job, you lose your woman. And that's a common red pill narrative. But the truth is this: you only lose your woman if you lose your job, if that woman is seeing you as a beta male provider. One thing that we need to understand is when we're looking at these social sexual dynamics, there's something called a hobosexual, right? There are many men out there who, within their sexual value and within the value that they bring to a table sexually, and the value that they bring to a table as far as their game and their masculine frame, that a woman will be so engulfed with that man that she'll be willing to provide financially, right? Now, I'll say this: I'm not saying that that's smart. I'm not saying that's a good idea to put the responsibility of your financial burden on a woman. I don't think that's cool. But what I will say is this: if you do not have the option or the ability to do that, then if you find yourself in a position where, let's say, you're married to a woman and you lose your job, right? And you get laid off. Or let's say you're married to a woman and when you're dating earlier on, let's say you had more of a trade career, right? Let's say you had a trade, and through that trade, you were able to provide for yourself to a certain extent to where you're able to also help provide for that woman. But let's say that woman decided to continue with her academic career. And as she continued with her academic career while you were dating, the goal was that you would get to a point where, okay, cool, she's going to go into her career. You don't want to hold her back. You don't want to control her, right? Oftentimes, when it comes to money and relationships, it's often about control, right? And they say sex is about control as well. So if you do not have the ability to be sexually attractive to that woman, and to have the masculine frame and the energy and the game to be able to lead that woman and to encourage the desire to want to submit to you, regardless of how much money you have, then you're setting yourself up in a position where, unless that woman nerfs herself, unless that woman puts herself in a position where she limits the amount of finances that she's going to have, unless she limits her goals, it's just a matter of time before that situation is over with. This is something to understand. Like my personal belief, and a lot of people may not agree with this. I don't think that you should commit to a woman who you can't digmatize. If you can't get that woman wrapped up with you from a combination of your sexual and non-sexual chemistry, without what it is that you're providing to the table, without trying to bring money in, without trying to offer a bunch of commitment, without offering all these things, if you do not have that ability, then it's a transactional situation. So, this is just something that I think. Like, let's say you're an artist, right? No, let me go back real quick. So let's say you're a man who has a trade job. Let's say you're a truck driver or a welder or whatever it is. You're making more money than most men in the black community. That's good. But let's say that woman, you give that woman game, you're coaching her up, you're teaching her different things, you're helping her with her mindset, and she decides that she wants to take her career to the next level when it comes to the ambition in her desires, right? When it comes to her career. Now, the thing is this, as a man, you may have already decided that you wanted a trade job. She likes the fact that you're able to be financially responsible and financially take care of yourself and her at a younger age. She may be younger than you, so she's still going through that process of going through her school shit and her career stuff. What'll often happen in these situations is, if that woman is dealing with you with bot cooperation instead of it being natural submissiveness that comes through your sexual and non-sexual chemistry and your ability to lead, then what will often happen is you can teach that woman all these things. You can say, okay, cool, after you go to school, and I'm gonna use my trade and I'm gonna take care of this, and then after you get your career, then you can take care of things for a little while, and I'm gonna go back to school myself, and I'm gonna cut back my hours, and then I'm going to increase my career as well. Oftentimes, a man will think that's the way things are going to go, but because of a woman's internalized definitions of masculinity and the fact that she sees you as a beta male provider, when you try to do that, she's not going to be with it. Or let's say that woman will put herself in a position where you're paying for everything as a man, right? She's putting all her money to the side like a nest egg, and if she doesn't trust you, if she isn't submissive with you, that woman may be putting 10, 20, $30 to the $30,000 to the side, and as soon as that relationship is over, she's going to take all that money that she had and she's going to put that directly into herself, instead of it being a situation where she's taking the money that she has and she's reinvesting it back into the relationship. Because often, like they say, is a man's money is your money, as in a group, or a man's success is y'all's success, but a woman's success is that woman's success. You need to get to a place where a woman doesn't see your money as the primary thing of value that you're adding to that relationship. So it's like, I don't look down on a man necessarily who takes the homosexual approach, because I think every man should have that ability. Should he do it? No. A man shouldn't do it. But if he doesn't have that option, there's different positions he may find himself in, if we're being realistic about how life works, where things will turn out negatively for him. Let's say you're an artist, right? There are some men, and they're going to be couch to couch, sleeping with different women, being a homosexual, right? But at times there are men who was able to do that, and during that time they were able to elevate their passion or their purpose to the point where they were able to take care of things themselves, right? I'm not saying that this is cool, that's the way men should do things, but life is about options. Life is about choices. If you do not have the choice, then you're going to put yourself in a bad position. This is just real. This is just real. If you're dealing with a woman, oftentimes in the black community, we don't have enough money as black men by ourselves to take care of the whole household. There are some men who can. Most can't. So most households within the black community are going to be a two-income household, especially with the economy the way it is right now, especially with, feminism the way it is right now, where women are taught to pursue their own goals. And there is nothing wrong with that. But the issue with it is this: you can't maintain the balance of a blue pill society where this is the dynamic that is going on. In a society where women have access to being sexually liberated, where women have constant access to being sexually validated by men, where women have constant access to men who they'll have a pure sexual desire for, and also in an environment where a woman can provide for herself, trying to trade your non-sexual access for sexual access is dumb, because that woman can find a man who doesn't need to trade those things, and that can often lead to abusive relationships. And then also, when you're in a situation where you're trying to use your finances to buy submission, to buy cooperation, if that woman has her own money, she's just gonna say fuck you and do what she want to do. So submission is something that needs to happen naturally. And it happens naturally through a certain combination of your non-sexual and your sexual chemistry and your ability to lead, her trust in you, the way that you maintain consistency with your program, right? But if your program is based on, because I make the money, I'm the one who says how things goes, then the moment that that woman, her money eclipses how much money you make for a certain period of time, then you're going to put yourself in a bad position. And I'll say this right here as well. Everything isn't just about money as well. Let's say you're a man, you have your career, this is a career that suits you, you're happy with your lifestyle, but this woman just has a career that she likes more, that, that's what she likes to do, and she was maybe more focused on money, or maybe she's in a STEM field, and maybe you're in the arts field, and she just has more money. That woman still has the capacity to be submissive to you. But when your mindset is she needs to submit to you based off of you being the one who pays for everything, that is not realistic, and that's not smart. Why? Because check this out. Let's say she has a certain amount of money. She wants to live a certain lifestyle. You can tell her no. Like, this is how much money I have. This is how much these bills are going to cost. I'm not doing that, right? And as a man, you could be like, well, how can I provide for her if I can't give her a better lifestyle that she can give herself? So you may walk away, or it may be a situation where she's going to grow resentment towards you. One way you can handle that is, how much money you're willing to put towards the household. If she wants to live a lifestyle that is above what you can reasonably afford, then she needs to foot the rest of that bill herself, because she has the money to do it, right? But even then, that doesn't forfeit the fact that you're still a man, you still got to let your nuts hang, and you still need a woman who's going to be submissive with you. Because without that masculine-feminine dynamic, it's going to throw off the whole whack of your relationship, and it's going to destroy the polarity, and it's going to create issues. So these are just giving, mindsets on money, mindsets on how relationships work within the black community, and how, as men, I believe that when it comes to the biology first approach, this is how we're going to create change when it comes to relationships in the black community. This is how we're going to create change. Men, we're going to learn. We're going to take that time to understand seduction, right? We're going to take time to understand our sexual power and how to have influence over the women that we deal with, right? And as we learn these things, we're going to, instead of taking advantage of the fact that we have that power and mistreat women and to take advantage of women and to do them dirty, what we're going to do is this. We're going to develop our programs to where every woman that we deal with, we're going to leave her better than we found her, right? If she's open to it. Every woman that we deal with, right? This is the plan. This is my plan for the black community, right? Every woman that we deal with, we're going to leave her better than we found her, unless we want to keep her to ourselves, right? In whether or not we want to keep her to ourselves, that, this is the thing. Even if you want to keep her to yourself, there's still a chance that it's not going to work out like that. Most relationships don't work out. But let's have a certain level of altruism. Let's have a certain level of integrity, a certain level of character when it comes to how we deal with women. If you know that that woman is the woman that you may want to be with for the rest of your life, or you don't know yet, you haven't spent enough time yet to vet her personality, to see how compatible you are with her, put her on some game, teach her some shit. Make sure that you have something to offer. See, like I said in one of my previous videos, one of the main things that a man brings to the table when it comes to relationships is his guidance. If you have nothing to teach a woman, you have nothing to offer her. So the main things that you need to be focused on giving a woman is good dick and guidance. Good dick and guidance. Those are the two primary things you need to be focused on being able to give a woman. And if you can give a woman good dick and guidance, then she will submit to you no matter how much money you have, no matter what your situation is, at least for a period of time. And in this position is where you have influence, right? A man who's giving a woman, like, there's one thing I learned earlier on in life is that there's nothing logical you can tell a woman to get her to leave a dude alone who's giving her some good sex. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do, especially if she's also emotionally attached to that man. The feeling that you give that woman, it creates this emotional roller coaster. It creates this emotional feeling within her that causes her to desire to please you, or causes her to desire to follow your lead. You do something within her. A woman following you is not about her making a logical decision. A woman making a logical decision to follow you is cooperation. That's compliance. That's not submission. When a woman makes that conscious decision, then often she can make another conscious decision to leave. And not only that, but when a woman makes that conscious decision and you're investing non-sexually, she's flipping the narrative and putting you in your feminine energy, because it doesn't make logical sense for you to try to provide for a woman who can completely take care of herself to get access to her sexually. And it also doesn't make logical sense for you to try to do that when you can find a woman who wants to sleep with you just to do it, and she can find a man who she wants to sleep with just to do it. The blue pill mentality is outdated. This is one of the best times to be dating. This is one of the best times to be focused on working on your game in relationships. There's so many benefits of being in this day and age. Let's stop being negative. Let's stop focusing on things that hurt us, and let's focus on developing our game, developing our sexual appeal, our sex appeal. Let's develop our masculinity to the point where we have the ability to lead women. And let's stop trying to think that if we make enough money that a woman is automatically going to submit to us. No, that makes you a trick, right? That makes you a trick. That's not cool. Now, if she's already receptive to your sexual energy, she's already receptive to your masculine energy, and she wants to follow your lead, then when you provide for that woman, she'll be much more grateful to it. And it's going to be something that adds on to what you already provide instead of being the basis of what you provide. Because in this day and age, a lot of people are getting laid off. A lot of people are losing their jobs. There's 40 million people who are unemployed right now because of COVID. There are all these different things that are going on that we need to understand when it comes to economics, when it comes to relationships, and understand that resources, that's perceived value, that's value-based dating. We need to get back to a more natural-based idea of dating that's based on intrinsic desire, intrinsic reward, intrinsic motivation. These things will help us improve the black community. One thing I've learned is if you've ever been in that situation, I've been in that situation with different women. I've also been on the other side of being a man who would try to do all this extra stuff for a woman, being a man who would go out of his way to try to make a woman feel comfortable, being a man who would try to invest non-sexually and emotionally in a woman in order to make her comfortable enough for sex, or to make her feel like I was a good enough man for her to want to follow me. That's trying to use logic to get a woman to follow you, but the logic behind it is flawed. Like I have a song that I wrote. It's called Bigger Fish, right? And it's the bigger fish theory, right? Which is that when a woman feels uncomfortable, it's not because you aren't making her comfortable. It's because she doesn't see you as bigger than what she is afraid of. Her desire for you hasn't overcome her level of fear. Because her desire for you hasn't overcome her level of fear, then you trying to continue to pursue the situation, it increases her level of anxiety because you do not respect the boundaries that her natural desires have set up towards you. You're trying to bypass that buffer. When it comes to these relationships, when it comes to these situations, men need to understand these things. Black men, this is what we need to do in order to improve the black community. But we can't do this unless we develop our intrinsic desire, our intrinsic motivation. If we don't get to the place where we are able to be with a woman who isn't demanding from us and still be able to provide for her emotionally, financially, or whatever it is, if we're not at a place where we can maintain consistently being good to a woman without her trying to demand things from us or trying to, manipulate us, if we can't do that, then we're putting ourselves in a situation where women feel like the only way they can be treated well in a situation is by manipulating men and by trying to trade either the lack or the surplus of sexual access to men in order to receive the things that she needs non-sexually to feel validated, in order to feel fulfilled in a relationship, and in order to feel safe, in order to feel secure. So as men, what our job is, we need to make sure that we're working on our programs. Develop your program. Set your program. She's not with your program, leave her alone. And when you set your program and you develop those different things, make sure that within your program is a way for both of you to improve as people. Now, your mindset needs to be that as a man, you're improving yourself regardless of what a woman has to do with your situation. You need to be constantly looking for ways to improve, but you're also looking for ways for her to improve as well. You can't hold a woman to a standard of her having to always change, of her always having to improve when you aren't doing that yourself. This is something to understand. So as men, it's our responsibility to improve ourselves. It's our responsibility to understand intrinsic motivation, so that if we find a woman who is attractive to us, who's willing to be on our program, who knows how to invest into us non-sexually, who is sexually attracted to us to where sex is a one-to-one transaction, if at the least and at the most, we're also, we're giving her sex. When we get to that place where we have the mutual sexual desire, where a woman has that natural submissiveness to our masculine energy, that is where we get to the place where we can have stronger bonds within the black community, so that we will actually be able to build together. Right? Because if you do not have this dynamic, then the moment a woman has more money than you, she's going to start to disrespect you. If you don't have this dynamic, the moment you lose your job, or you may be going through depression, or you may be dealing with whatever you deal with, a woman is going to feel like you're not masculine anymore, and then she's going to start disrespecting you. Let's say you need to quit your job for a short period of time. I'm not saying that's the best idea. I think that, it's really best for a man to, transition into his goals. But let's say you lose your job and you say, you know what, I lost my job, but I'm right here at the cusp of being able to move into my purpose. If a woman doesn't have a natural level of submissiveness to you, then that lack of security, the lack of knowing what's going to happen ahead of time, will give her anxiety, and she won't be able to be comfortable in that situation. And it's going to lead to situations where, let's say, if a woman lacks intrinsic sexual desire, when a man doesn't feel like he's sexually desired, he doesn't feel like he's being when he feels sexually neglected, he loses the ability to maintain having a certain level of affection for a woman, because he doesn't feel that that's reciprocated. And the same thing can work on the other side. So intrinsic motivation works on both sides. There needs to be intrinsic sexual desire on both sides. There needs to be intrinsic desire to operate within that masculine feminine polarity and dynamic. So this is just Brody's take on what I think will help the black community. Also, dating within your tribe, I think that is something that's very important. And is one thing to know. And what a lot of men are afraid of, and I can't admit this, I can attest to this. There are some women who do possess that Madonna whore complex themselves, or alpha fucks, beta bucks, where you may just be alpha fucks. But you have to understand, you may just be beta fucks, which is the reason why she's not following you. Right? You just may be a beta male with some good dick, and she doesn't want to follow your lead. She doesn't want to go anywhere you say. But you have to understand, there are instances where a woman will be so enthralled with you that when you tell her to jump, she's going to say, how high? Are you going to take advantage of that in a way that is going to cause her pain in her life? Are you going to take advantage of that in a way where it is going to cause her to look stupid all the time? Or are you going to take advantage of that where you use the influence that you have over that woman to elevate her mindset to where now she can operate even without you in the world? Or where she decides that she wants to be with you no matter what. These are the things that are important. Like a lot of men, they're talking about how, women aren't loyal or women aren't consistent and all these other things. A lot of times men just aren't consistent with their programs, and women will try them off the consistency of their program, whether that is by trying to disrespect them or whether it's by trying to give them an opportunity to do something that they said that they didn't want to do. Men, we need to understand these things, and after we understand these things, we need to implement them so that we can start improving relationships within the black community. So this is Brody's take on it. Hey, it is what it is. So let me know what you think. Hit me up, see what your thoughts are. Let's have this discussion.